right? They were saying how they weren't going to do a original Snow White. So the Snow White movie came out and it's horrible. Sorry, I actually don't know if it's horrible. I haven't seen it myself, but the views, the interviews, and the overall vibe of the actors who filmed this movie, they don't lie, okay? Facts don't lie. No one has seen this movie because nobody wants to see this movie. And that's just the harsh truth. Welcome to Tati Rambles, where I ramble about anything I want, but it's typically about things that you guys see in the media. And today, we're gonna be rambling about the new movie, Snow White. As usual, I mean no harm with my opinions. They're just my opinions, and I also am not the news. So if I get anything wrong, please just check me, and I always try to be 100% factual, but you know, I may get things wrong. I am so open to hearing your guys' opinion. Please comment down below. I'm so open to having a discussion. I want to hear what you have to say, okay? I really want to hear what you have to say, okay? A while ago, it was announced that Snow White was getting a live action, and it was atrocious from the beginning. The lead star playing Snow White was Rachel, okay? Now, this was a time where literally the whole thing with like them switching out white actors for color actors with like original characters, that whole thing was going around. We had Halle as the Black Little Mermaid, and then we had her, Rachel Zegler, being Snow White. Here's my stance on it, okay? I loved Halle as Little Mermaid. I don't think she needed to be black, but she was a phenomenal singer, and she played that role with her heart out. Now, with Snow White, I was like, guys, we're getting a little bit too crazy with this. Snow White is literally described white as snow, okay? And to me, that girl's just always been white. I'm just really confused. It's Snow White. Anyway, so it was kind of already doomed from the start in that sense. Although I love Rachel. I loved her in the Hunger Games. She's a phenomenal actor, a phenomenal singer, and I was really scared for her with this role. And then we had Gal Gadot as the evil queen. Everybody doesn't like Gal Gadot. Any emotional line she's ever had to deliver sounds like the most monotone thing you could ever even have your ears witness. Like it's her acting's terrible. So I was really confused. Anyway, the casting was bad. Doomed from the start, okay? And then they started actually talking about the movie, right? They were saying how they weren't going to do a original Snow White. So we have different actors. One of them is a terrible actor, and then you're not even doing the original story. What is happening? The thing is with the Disney movies, people are like, oh my gosh, the movies are outdated anyway. Like, who cares? Like, she literally a prince saves her. That is so outdated. That is some people's idea of femininity, okay? Sometimes some women really want to just be swept off their feet by a prince. That doesn't like make it outdated. Like, some people genuinely want that. That can be somebody's idea of femininity. So we're gonna watch some TikToks, and we're gonna come to some conclusions, and I'm gonna let you guys go.
And to everyone who hates when I win, the winged victory came to the Louvre in pieces, and people still line up to see her. And I can only hope that despite my flaws, and despite my cracks and my breaks, and there are many of them, that at every premiere and everything I do, people will wait in line to see.
As you guys can see, Rachel Zegler is having a really hard time dealing with the backlash surrounding Snow White.
I'm pretty sure that video was before the movie came out, and I saw that video. I'm pretty sure. I'm like 80% sure. I don't even know what's really happening in that video. She obviously looks very hurt by the feedback she is getting, and it's not entirely even all her fault. Like, she didn't write this movie. She didn't make all these changes. I think more so people are upset with the way she spoke about it in the interviews, which we will get to that later. But where's her PR? Cause this is not this is like, she shouldn't have posted this. You're a Disney princess now. So I'm not saying that just because you have a Disney princess, you can't be emotional on the internet. I just don't think that this was like diplomatic in any way. You know what I mean? But we'll continue.
Even though she's trying to appear strong, I did some research into how this movie performed, and it's not looking good. I haven't seen a movie with ratings like this in a very long time. Keep in mind that Disney spent about like $250 million on this movie, and when the film came out, they didn't even make half of that back. Typically with movies, you want to make like, 3 times the budget, but it looks like at this rate, they might not even be able to break even. Everyone is mad over the Snow White movie. I mean, I'm not lining up to go and see it right now. I do feel bad for Rachel, though. I think she's taking this very personally, and it's not all of her choices. I mean, it wasn't her choice to change the way that Snow White sings or the storyline. So I think she's taking a lot of this personally, and it's sad to see. Rachel is very talented, but she doesn't need to waste her time just defending this movie.
Exactly.
It's already a flop. But I want to hear what you guys think in the comments below. I do like the new song from it when she sings Echo, 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 Echo.
Okay, so that is essentially what I was saying. Like, it's okay to feel these, emotions, but don't go on the internet and like cry over this movie or cry over how much hate it's getting. It's not worth it. Like, that is Disney's problem, okay? You were asked to do a job, you did the best you could. The way she spoke about it, I could see why people are upset, but overall, like, you just did your job and now you get to go home. And it didn't make a lot, but you still got paid for what you need to get paid for. You don't have to come on the internet defending this movie in the slightest. It's not your fault. Don't even get attention to it. And also, them spending almost $250 million on this movie to not make anything similar to the original movie is weird and interesting. Let's watch another TikTok.
In the past few days, Variety has put out several coordinated pieces against Rachel Zegler, pinning the disaster of Snow White on her. This is coming from the same news outlet that is praising Jonathan Majors for being so resilient after being convicted of beating a woman. This is also a bizarre move when you go look at all the reviews for Snow White, and people are consistently saying that Rachel Zegler is the shining light amongst this disaster. This Snow White drama has lasted years, and honestly, I've held my tongue for a really long time. As an animator, I think the idea of live action remakes is incredibly stupid.
We just spoke about remakes and live actions in my last video, but I'm going to repeat myself. If you make a live action or a remake of something original, who is your main audience? Us, the people who watch the original. So what should you do as somebody who's in charge of remaking it or making it a live action? You should try to make it as similar as possible to what the original fan base is used to seeing. You know what I mean? Like, it's okay to try new things. Take Percy Jackson, for example. That the author is sticking to the books, right? But he's making small changes that don't completely shift from the entire storyline or shift from what would make it a Percy Jackson series. You know what I mean? These movies and these shows that are getting remade or live actions, it feels completely different. It feels like an entirely different franchise. That is what people are upset about. I think live actions and remakes do not need to be done unless you specifically cater to the original audience.
So let's dive into the Snow White fiasco. You don't have to remind me that Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs is monumental in film history, specifically animation history. I'm well aware. I have a degree in animation. But I think a lot of people forget why it's so famous. It's not because of the story. It's because it's the first fully feature-length animated film in the US. So yes, it changed animation for the rest of our lives in the Western world in the US. And I definitely understand that, but it's not anything to do with the story. Disney has done a really good job over the last few decades of making people believe that they are the inventors of these stories. They source from the Grimm's fairy tales. They do not own them. They're in public domain. Anyone can interpret these stories, which is why we get different interpretations of Snow White, like the one with Kristen Stewart and the one with Lily Collins. That's because those are not Disney. Disney's is a very distinct look. And so this live action remake was always going to riff off the original animated movie, which, like I said, the story was never that special. It was about the fact that it was animated. Which leads me to the fact that these live action remakes are just never going to work. I don't know why people keep going to them expecting to be blown away when we all know that they are just cash grabs. 2D animation got so expensive that Disney no longer does it. 3D animation is expensive, but these live action remakes roll in cash for the Disney brand. Working off existing IP will always draw people in. Disney has a very distinct formula for all these live action Disney princess remakes. The first step to this is that they are reinventing the story for a modern era. Disney believes that by giving the princess characters a little bit more agency outside of a love story will make people more interested in these movies. But they never radically change the story. They can't deviate too far from the animated thing because they're working off the IP. They're working off their own IP, always. I'm not sure why Rachel Zegler is being crucified for this specific change to the Snow White story because it's never that drastic. It's also not her choice, and every other Disney princess has said it. Why are people so mad about Rachel Zegler saying it when Emma Watson said the exact same thing about Beauty and the Beast? Another key part for Disney is casting a woman of color at the center of these roles. It causes a lot of controversy. They know that a lot of racists are going to be in uproar. People will be upset, but they enjoy that because controversy leads in more people to watch. People will hate watch. People will watch just because people are hating. They believe that any press is good press. Honestly, we need to start having a conversation about the ethics of what Disney is doing here. They literally never defend these women.
I also agree that most of Disney's casting for women of color is specifically to get hate watchers. I definitely think the women of color do a phenomenal job portraying whatever character that they're supposed to portray, but it doesn't change the fact that they are probably most likely still being hired for cash grab. She goes on to say just about cash grabs, Disney being terrible, and etc., which I pretty much essentially agree with. The only thing I disagree with, people are saying like, why is it a problem when Rachel speaks out about how she's rewriting the story to go off the original narrative of not just being a princess to find love? I think it's specifically the way she said it versus a lot of these other Disney princesses kind of expressed that. I think that's the issue. So that's what we're going to watch right now. We're going to watch the interview, because even when I watched it, I love Rachel. I think she's very, very sweet. I don't think she means any harm with the way she speaks. I just think that she needs to be PR trained. But we're just going to watch.
You said you were bringing a modern edge to it on stage. What do you mean by that?
I just mean that it's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be, and the leader that her late father told her that she could be if she was fearless, fair, brave, and true. And so it's just a really incredible story for her.
So if she would have just said that she's dreaming of being the leader her father told her she could be, and so on and so forth, that would have been fine. But in the beginning, the way she said it, I think that's just a bit, not respectful to the original storyline, like to the original movie, to Snow White's character. It just lacks diplomacy. Like I said, if she just kept it to where she's dreaming of something else other than true love and whatever else she said, that would have been fine. But the beginning part of the original question, it's just like it comes off a bit arrogant.
But I think there's something so special about Snow White, the fact that it's about the humanity and it's about nature as well, and it's a beautiful story about an amazing girl who wants to find the true self of hers, that is just so appealing and so special.
I was scared of the original cartoon. I think I watched it once and then I never picked it up again. Like, I'm being so serious. I watched it once and then I went on the ride in Disney World, which was called Snow White's Scary Adventures. Doesn't sound like something a little kid would like. Was terrified of it. Never revisited Snow White again. So I watched it for the first time in probably 17 years. I mean, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her.
Yeah.
Weird.
I can see where it's just like humor and personality, like truly. I just think not everybody gets that, and once again, she needs to be PR trained, and she just has nothing good to say about the original series. Again, when you're doing remakes or live actions, your target audience is the audience of the original thing. So of course people want to hear her speak a little bit more highly of the original thing that they fell in love with. Like, you know what I mean? I just think she could have a little bit more respect for the original, or maybe approach it in a different way that doesn't seem so insensitive. Rachel, congratulations on your movie. I hope you are doing well mentally and physically. I'm sure I saw clips of her singing. She sounds wonderful. It's not your fault, okay? It's not your fault entirely. They should have PR trained you, and Disney could have taken better care of you, and just overall this entire storyline. Anyways, guys, I'm looking forward to hearing your opinions. What do you guys think? Do you guys think that she spoke perfectly fine about the movie? Does she need to be PR trained? Is she just speaking her mind as every Disney star should do? What do you guys think? Let me know. I am definitely still not going to see that movie, but yeah. Okay, love you. Bye. And I also want to add that my favorite interpretation of Snow White was Mary Margaret from Once Upon a Time. She was the best Snow White I have ever seen. But anyway,